One crisis, two phases. How imperialist war and austerity flow from the same capitalist contradictions. The US Israeli assault on Iran and the genocide in Gaza are not aberrations or moral failures of particular leaders. They are political expressions of the deeper systemic contradictions of global capitalism. Its drive for profit, control of resources, and geopolitical dominance, which simultaneously produce militarism abroad and austerity at home. The same class forces and material imperatives that push Washington, London, and Paris into war also push governments in Colombo, Jakarta, and Dakar to slash wages, privatize public services, and subordinate social needs to creditor interests. The imperialist war against Iran, the genocide in Gaza, and the IMF-imposed austerity in Sri Lanka, alongside privatization and job destruction worldwide, are not separate phenomena, but two interconnected expressions of a single global class offensive. The ruling classes deploy militarism abroad to secure resources, markets, and strategic dominance, while enforcing austerity at home to discipline labor, intensify exploitation, and transfer wealth upward. What is imperialism? Imperialism, in Lenin's formulation, is not merely rivalry among states or the exporting of military power. It is the rule or domination of finance capital, the fusion of banking and industrial monopolies that forms a transnational financial oligarchy which dominates politics, markets, and the world economy. As Lenin wrote, finance capital, I quote, is such a decisive, you might say, force in all economic and in all international relations that it is capable of subjecting and actually the subject to itself, even states enjoying the fullest political independence. I close quote. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is a chief institutional expression of that domination. It is not a neutral technocratic lender. It functions materially to secure the interests of international bankers, transnational corporations, and the dominant imperialist states. Acting as an agent of international capital, IMF dictates austerity and subordinate sovereignty of peripheral states. The IMF economic role, on the other hand, complements the geopolitical and military instruments of imperialism. What is the global context? The imperialist competition and resource control. Modern imperialism is a system of transnational capital seeking secure access to markets, raw materials, and strategic routes. The Middle East, energy resources, and the Strait of Hormuz are central to that logic. The US Israeli campaign against Iran aims to subordinate Iranian oil and regional influence to Western corporate and strategic interests to deny rivals, above all China and Russia, reliable access and leverage. As the WSWS, the World Socialist website, has repeatedly explained, these operations are part of a continuing imperialist trajectory to reshape energy and trade relations in favor of declining imperial powers. What is the material linkage? How war generates austerity? There are concrete, measurable channels that connect imperialist conflict to cuts in living standards. First, trade and price shocks, disruption of energy and agricultural imports raises import bills for peripheral economies. Rapid inflation erodes real wages and forces central banks and governments to tighten fiscal policy to defend currencies. Second, debt and conditionality. Increased deficits and depleted reserves invite creditors and institutions like the IMF to demand austerity in exchange for liquidity. In Sri Lanka, for example, post-crisis negotiations and IMF programs translate into privatization and social spending cuts even while reconstruction needs mount. Third, a fiscal reallocation. States redirect scarce resources toward security and military spending, directly or via elite alignments, leaving fewer resources for health, education, and social welfare. Fourth, political legitimization of repression. War fuels nationalism and emergency powers that suppress strikes and independent workers' organization, enabling ruling classes to impose destabilizing reforms with limited resistance. The World Socialist website has summarized how Washington's drive to dominate energy and regional geopolitics is inseparable from a domestic program to restructure society. That is, to cuts to social programs, pension tax, and the theft of public funds to underwrite militarization. What are the international implications for the working class? For workers in Sri Lanka and the periphery, the result is triple. Higher prices for essentials like fuel, food, fertilizer, loss of export markets and remittances, and imposition of austerity to placate creditors. Simultaneously, workers in imperialist centers are told they must accept wage restraint and program cuts to pay for national security, while the real transfer is upward into the coffers of arms firms and international banks. The only social force that can break this chain is the organized international proletariat acting independently of bourgeois parties and union bureaucracies. What is the alternative? A socialist program that links anti-war and anti-austerity struggles. The solution is international and class-based. Workers must refuse to be split by borders or nationalist appeals and must mobilize around program that makes the working class the political actor. That program must include immediate demands, cancellation of odious debt, emergency social measures like price controls, food and fuel rations, wage indexation, and repudiation of IMF conditionalities. And also, it should include revolutionary measures like nationalization of banks, ports, and energy under democratic workers' control, close of foreign bases, and the building of democratically elected workers' councils to implement social planning. The ICFI have consistently argued that stopping imperialist barbarism requires linking workplace and neighborhood action across borders and building international rank and file action committees to coordinate strikes, port stoppages, and debt refusals. We have to organize internationally now. Imperialism cannot be defeated by appeals to rival rural classes. The working class must assert political independence and build international organizations to coordinate action, strike committees, plot blockades, and international solidarity actions that can choke off the material means of war and force a redistribution of resources to human needs. Only the organized power of the international proletariat, acting on a socialist program, can end the twin scourges of imperialist war and austerity and replace capitalist barbarism with democratic social planning for human needs. Join this fight. Build the necessary leadership in the International Committee of the Fourth International that the Socialist leader of Sri Lanka and South Asia is in solidarity with. I am Sanjay Jayasekara, editor of the Socialist.lk and the Socialist magazine, and member of the Socialist leader of Sri Lanka and South Asia.